Lecture 1, Native America. In this section we're going to go over the origins of Native American cultures in the Western Hemisphere. The prevalent theory about how Native Americans came to the Western Hemisphere is the Bering Land Bridge theory that most of us have probably studied in elementary school and has been prevalent for about the last century. The argument is that during the last ice age, approximately 22,000 to 11,000 years ago, peoples, groups or tribes or people in Eastern Asia migrated across a land bridge between Siberia and Alaska. During the last ice age, sea levels were much lower than they are today, exposing land between Siberia and North America. The idea is that these nomadic groups following their food, crossed over the land bridge into North America and then continued to spread throughout the two continents. The best evidence for the Bering Land Bridge idea is there is a DNA connection between Siberian cultures and many Native American U.S. tribes. The Clovis culture is one of the more famous ancient cultures that developed from these first nomadic groups that came over. The Clovis culture in New Mexico thrived about 13,000 to 11,000 years ago. Probably the most famous aspect of Clovis culture that is known, that most people know about, are the Clovis arrow points. These are arrow points where it takes a skilled person to be able to chip away at the rock with another rock and create fine edges. The edges of those arrow points are extremely sharp. And then on one side, you have a little notch where you can tie in with a rope. With a rope you tie in a stick or a rod to which you can then throw the arrow. The best examples of Clovis arrow points are, of course, in the fossils of ancient animals like woolly mammoth. Dozens of these arrow points could be found in one single fossil animal, like a woolly mammoth. It would take about that many to take down one of these large woolly mammoths. At archaeological sites where people lived, archaeologists find hundreds, if not thousands, of broken ones or bad ones. If you're chiseling out one of these arrow points and you chip off wrong or you damage it in some way, you have to throw away the rock. And so one way that archaeologists know that this was a very skilled activity is the fact that at archaeological sites there'll be hundreds if not thousands of broken arrow points all over the place, showing that, hey, somebody had to know how to do it and to get it right. And then the best ones are obviously in the fossils of dead animals, because that's what killed them. And so these Clovis arrow points are probably one of the more famous examples for most people about this culture. Over the last 30, 40 years, you see the development of alternative points of view that suggest that human beings came to the Western Hemisphere a variety of ways, not just over the Bering Land Bridge. For example, there's evidence of South American habitation at archaeological sites as early as 50,000 years ago, well before the last ice age. There's also archaeological evidence as few as 11,000 years ago, which would mean, people in South America at the same time they're coming over the Bering Land Bridge, and so when you look at the rate of migration, they would have moved pretty fast to get down to South America, thus causing some archaeologists to argue that people came to the Western Hemisphere in different ways. By South America, it'd be by ocean. A recent alternative theory for Ice Age Europeans coming to the Western Hemisphere is the Soltrian theory. This idea developed over the last about 30 years, and the argument is that the Soltrians, a ancient Ice Age European culture, most famously known for their cave paintings, may have reached the eastern shores of North America following the ice sheets along the Atlantic Ocean, following the ice sheets, and eventually making it to the Western Hemisphere. The best evidence for the Silurian theory is when you study Silurian arrow points, they are similar to Clovis arrow points. They're similar to Clovis arrow points. They're also similar to other types of arrow points in North and South America. And these are different points, Closum, Folsom, some different types of arrow points that have been found across North America. The best evidence for the Silurian theory is that their arrow points are remarkably similar in development. It shows the developmental stage between people in Ice Age Europe and then here. Some archaeologists argue when you study Eastern Asian arrow points, they're very different in development from these North American arrow points. And so the best evidence is the connection with the development of technology and how it transfers to one culture to another. The biggest issue of the Silurian theory is the best evidence for Ice Age Europeans in North America would be underwater today. As I mentioned earlier, during the last Ice Age, water levels were a lot lower than they are today. And so the eastern coast of North America would be hundreds of miles farther east than it is today. And so the best evidence of that is would be the best evidence for Ice Age Europeans would be underwater. They may or may not have traveled very far for very long. There is some recent DNA evidence of a link between Ice Age Europeans and a few Eastern North American tribes. The argument there is when that DNA was introduced, pre or post 1492. Some geneticists and archaeologists arguing that the DNA was introduced pre-European arrival in 1492, and others arguing that any European DNA is post 1492. Another thing to look at when you study the Silurian theory is, for some archaeologists, is the center of or the development of this arrow point technology. If you look at this fluted point map, each dot represents the number of fluted arrow points found at various archaeological sites across North America. The biggest dots represent hundreds of arrow points found in an archaeological site. And so what this map shows is when archaeologists dig up the eastern coast of North America, there's arrow points everywhere. And then it filters out, as you get farther west, it filters out to where there's not a lot, not as much. And so this is another argument for Ice Age Europeans coming, the center of culture, and then spreading. The counter argument is that for Ice Age Asians, people from Asia coming across the land bridge, and as they slowly went south, the Clovis culture, and then spreading eastern and having this center. And so there's two different ways you can interpret this map. But it is an interesting map that shows the prevalence of these different types of arrow points in eastern North America, suggesting that was a main area of settlement, and then people spread out farther, versus going people from the east coming west, from Eastern Asia coming to Western North America, and then slowly and then eventually showing there. And so this is an interesting map to consider. The bottom line that I would like my students to get out of this or understand is that ancient human beings came to the Western Hemisphere from Asia, Europe, Polynesia, and possibly other areas. I encourage students to have an open mind about how Europeans got here. I think the desire to be first or who's first has political overtones and causes some people some unneeded agitation. People came to the Western Hemisphere by land, by sea, not by spaceships, but there you have it. But anyways, ancient. I just encourage an open mind that people came a variety of different ways, and so when you study, it doesn't need to be one specific way, or all is lost.